Hey everyone, it's Grant Winsauer and back here on
Jack
the
Rodi.
BearClaw Cast here on YouTube and Apple Podcasts today. And we will be going over what stood out to both of us during the Bears versus Bills game and our three standouts from the Bears versus Bills game. And we both want to apologize that this is coming to you a little bit late because, you would usually assume that game reaction would come on Sunday or Monday, but we were both pretty busy on those days, so this was the earliest we could get a video or podcast out to you. But don't worry, in the future, our recording sessions will be set for Saturday and Monday. For the one before the game on Saturday, and the ones on Monday are the reactions to the game after. So we will have a more set schedule when school comes around. But before we get into it, how have you been the last few days, Jack? What have you been up to?
Yeah, honestly, not too much. I got a chance to go to the White Sox Cubs game on Friday night at Guaranteed Rate Field in Chicago, which as a Sox fan, kind of expected. They lost again, but they gave it a good fight, almost came back down from down 7-0 and made it a close game, had a chance to win it in the ninth. But other than that, just kind of enjoying my last weekend here with my family. Crazy to say because I'm going back to school on Friday. So busy week coming up with back to school stuff, but glad to be back and
Yeah,
able to
yeah.
record here
Thanks
today.
for making the time. Um, Please remember to like and subscribe on YouTube, and if you are listening on Apple Podcasts, remember to follow and share with your friends. The first thing that went well for the Bears is the fact that they scored 33 points, and I think that was like such a great breath of fresh air because I know that we have scored a lot of points at the end of last season, but with this was with a whole new coaching staff on offense and a lot of new pieces, so this gives us a lot more hope for this season that's coming up. Now we still have to take these games with a grain of salt because the Bears have played particularly well in the preseason and then have underperformed during the season. So it will be very interesting to see how this plays out. But from what I saw on Tuesday or on Saturday, I enjoyed it very much. What did you did you enjoy it? And what, Jack? And what was your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I think my first takeaway from the game was just a breath of fresh air as far as play calling goes. It was really nice to see Shane Waldron utilize different personnel with the first team offense as well as different plays and kind of do what this offense should be doing best. I think one thing interesting to note as far as personnel goes, Gerald Everett did see more snaps than Cole Kmet. 14 snaps for Everett to 11 snaps for Kmet with the first team offense, which I thought was a little bit interesting. But we saw Kmet get targeted a couple times. He had the one unfortunate drop, but then he had the one great
That was
catch
a
on the
great
Caleb
catch.
bootleg play. So, yeah, so I think that showing early on that the tight ends are going to be utilized a lot in Shane Waldron's offense, which is something that we had heard as
Yeah,
he came over
I'm
from
very
Seattle.
excited to see how the two of them you know complement each other because I've heard all but good things about Gerald Everett, and from what I've seen him, in terms of where he's played, it's all been all but good. So it's been
Yeah, and it's four of his 5 years so far in his NFL career. He's
that's
played
gonna help
under
a
Shane
lot.
Waldron and the Shane Waldron
That's gonna help
offense.
a lot.
So
The
yeah,
next thing that went well for the Bears uh, was the offensive line blocking. The first team offensive line was Braxton Jones at left tackle, Tevin Jenkins at left guard, Coleman Shelton at center, Matt Pryor at right guard, and Darnell Wright at right tackle. They held their own against a pretty good defense in the Buffalo Bills, and that was pretty surprising. That group didn't let up one sack when Caleb Williams was out there for his two drives, which gives us Bears fans more hope. What what was your second thing that stood out in the game, Jack?
Yeah, so I think mine kind of mirrors what you were talking about, although I kind of wanted to take a little different look at it. I thought that as a whole, the offensive line played very well, but I think we could be looking for a little bit more out of Darnell Wright, and I hope that he progresses a little bit more throughout the preseason. He was, I believe, one of the Bears' worst PFF grades from this game, somewhere in the 40s. So that is an area where we can look to improve a little bit. He did have the holding called against him on the first series that Caleb played. Uh, but like you mentioned, no sacks as a line as a whole when Caleb was out there. So that's a very positive thing, especially going against the pass rush like the Bills. But I will mention Ed Oliver got hurt early on, and I'm not quite sure if he returned. I don't know if he did or not. So that also played an
Yeah,
impact in that a little bit.
to comment on the Ed Oliver thing, I don't think that he did return because honestly, I think that if he did, he would have been there for maybe like 5 or 6 plays, probably just because of what, depending on what
Yeah.
he got hurt for, it wasn't, specified in the game. But something to note is, out of this offensive line that I mentioned earlier, the least, performing person that I thought performed very well was Matt Pryor, the stand-in right guard for Ryan Bates, because he got injured the day before the game, so he didn't play in the preseason game. But I mean, he didn't let up any sacks like the whole offensive line did. And it's important to note that Nate Davis practiced limited today, so we may see him back sooner than later. But if he wants to be this team starting right guard, he's gotta make it fast, because we got basically 3 weeks until the season, so he's gotta ramp up fast. The final thing that went well for the Bears is just their defense as a whole. The Bears defense held the Bills offense to 6 total points and got 8 total sacks on the Bills, and that is very impressive. There was no revenge game for Mitchell Trubisky this time, because the last time that he played the Bears on the Bills in the preseason, Trubisky carved up the Bears defense like crazy. I just thought I mentioned that because I remember watching that game, and we all the Bears fans had their jaws dropped. What was the third thing that stood out to you, Jack?
Yeah, it is something with the defense, but I thought it was that second drive that Josh Allen had, which was his last drive in the game. I believe they may have switched over to someone else at the end of it. But the fact the Bears were able to get a stop within the 10-yard line, I think is going to be something that's huge for them this season. Because we know, as we saw by the end of last year, that their secondary has crazy potential for turnovers and interceptions. And we saw that later in the game with a pick six of over 50 yards. But if we can get those timely stops where teams are on our goal line and we can make a stand like that, that's going to be a difference in a lot of games where it's not a preseason game and the starters are coming out after the first quarter. Because obviously, if this was a regular season game, it was looking like a good game. Like Caleb and Josh were kind of going at each other back to back. So it was good to see the Bears.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. Next, me and Jack will go over 3 standouts each on the Bears. My first standout is Caleb Williams. Williams played 18 snaps, and he made the most out of those 18 snaps, completing 4 out of 7 passes for 95 yards and 13 rushing yards. Biggest play of the day for the Bears was a screen pass to DeAndre Swift for 42 yards, and it was my personal play of the game. Caleb showcased a lot of things that I enjoyed. Those things include him progressing through his reads really fast, him throwing the ball away when he had no one open and not taking a sack. He was also able to fit the ball into a few tight windows, which all of those things that I mentioned, Justin Fields was pretty lacking at. So we definitely got the QB upgrade. Another thing I have to mention is the fact that Caleb Williams passed for more yards in one quarter than Justin Fields did in one half, pretty much during every game that he played last year. So, I mean, he was on pace for 400 yards if he played the whole preseason game, which obviously, probably won't happen. But, the future looks bright at least. So, my next standout is Austin Booker. Booker played most of the preseason game against the Bills, and boy, did he have a hell of a game. He had two and a half sacks with 5 tackles. If Booker can keep this up during the next few weeks, I don't think we'll have to worry as much about signing edge help. I am very excited to see him during the next few weeks, because if he can perform like he did against the Bills the next 2 weeks, we might see Booker across Montez Sweat sooner than we think. I think it's safe to say the Bears got a late draft gem in Austin Booker, and Ryan Poles is very good at finding late round steals, just like Ryan Pace, but Poles won't overpay people to come here. So that's one thing that I really like about Ryan Poles over Ryan Pace. My last standout is actually undrafted rookie Ian Wheeler. Wheeler had 5 carries for 43 yards and 2 touchdowns. I really hope that he is one of the people that makes the roster, because he looked really good against the Bills. These next few weeks of practice will be huge for him if he can perform like that to fly up the depth chart to see more playing time. What are your thoughts on my 3 standout players? And then I will hand it over to you to go over your 3 and talk about that.
Yeah, so I mean, I really like what we're seeing from Austin Booker so far, obviously. I think he still might be best served at the start of the season as more of a third down specialist, where we can let him go and rush the passer and not have to worry as much about defending the run, because I think that's a lot to worry about for defensive end as a rookie who was a little bit of a later round draft pick, like you mentioned. And then Ian Wheeler, yeah, I mean, the Bears just continue this year to throw out running backs who seemingly, no matter who they throw out, the offensive line is blocking well for him and they're getting yards and scoring touchdowns. So can't really complain about that. But my first standout is the same as yours, just because I wanted to talk for my little bit about him. Caleb Williams, I don't think we could have asked for much more from him. Just going back and watching the highlights of the game after watching it in real time, that first throw, the strike to DJ Moore, he looked off the linebacker with a little bit of a pump fake over the middle, which opened him that lane to throw. It was awesome to see him maneuver the pocket like that. The play to DJ Moore in the flat, which I think a lot of people just kind of glossed over. It was just nice to see him get that ball out and let DJ Moore go and take those people on instead of having Caleb take that hit. And then the one last play I wanted to talk about was the play where Caleb escaped the pocket and ran up the middle for a first down. I think a lot of Bears fans were like, oh, we've seen this before with Justin, the whole running thing, like not that cool. But the difference is on that play, the Bills were running a 2 high safety coverage with man coverage everywhere else. So once Caleb recognized that and realized there was no one over the middle, the weakness of that defense against mobile quarterbacks is that QB escaping the pocket and running up the middle. So I thought it was just a great diagnosis. Sorry, feeling through the word there. Diagnosis by Caleb.
I agree
with you. Coverage. My second standout was Tevin Jenkins. PFF kind of had the same thoughts as me. They graded him above a 90, which was one of the top 3 grades for any Bears offensive player from the game. And I think Tevin Jenkins, if he can stay healthy this year, is going to get paid a lot of money in the very near future. Him and Braxton Jones have the super important job this year of protecting the left side of the offensive line for Caleb Williams, which is his blind side. And the Bears obviously have a lot invested in Caleb. So I think if Tevin can stay healthy this year and continue to produce, he could be looking at a very large payday, and
I
hopefully from the Bears.
yeah, I would hope
And
that
then,
I
yeah,
hope that
go
he
ahead.
can stay healthy, because I liked him when he came out in the draft, and I actually wanted to touch on your comment on Caleb Williams real quick. I should have said that when you were, but
Yeah, sorry about that.
I was watching a play where he was doing a play action rollout. I believe it was the pass to Cole Kmet, but he was rolling out and he stretched out his hands. So if he got like he reduced the chances of someone trying to strip the ball away from him. That is a huge IQ play for a rookie. I mean that's very good. I don't know if you saw that play, but I saw it and I was like, wow, that I saw that on Twitter and that was like just it dawned on me that's more of like a veteran type of IQ play. But please continue. Sorry.
No, yeah, for sure. He's got a very innate feel for the game, and you can definitely see it. My third standout was a guy I've talked about for the last couple weeks, I feel like, and that's Velus Jones Jr. He had 6 carries for, I believe, 34 yards and a touchdown. Most of his work came on the Bears' first drive of the third quarter, and then I believe he got a little more work early on in the fourth quarter. But Velus is a guy who's searching for a spot on this roster right now and searching for a role. And Roshan Johnson was unhealthy and unable to go on Saturday afternoon, so Velus was given an opportunity to get a couple more carries than maybe he would have thought he was going into this week. But I thought he performed really well. Matt Eberflus talked about it after the game, I believe, or maybe the next day, saying that he was impressed by what Velus had done and thought he did a good job. So just anywhere we can put him where he can use that dynamic athleticism that we drafted him for, I think would be a huge benefit to our roster if he ends up making the team. And whether that be kick returning and getting a little work out of the backfield or just being a guy who can spell people out of the backfield, who knows? But good to see a little bit of progress from him.
Today, it was actually announced that JJ McCarthy needs surgery for a torn meniscus, and I am not necessarily the expert on Sam Darnold when it comes to the football knowledge or okay. Let me rephrase that. I should say I'm not necessarily the biggest fan, but my co-host Jack is so I'm gonna hand this segment over to him because he thinks that Sam Darnold has a chance to be MVP. So please give me your reasoning for that.
Yeah, so first off, just want to say, hope JJ gets better. You never want to see a player, let alone a rookie, have a potentially season-ending injury before their career begins. That sucks. Hope he gets better. But as far as Sam Darnold goes, MVP might be a stretch. I'll stick to it because if it happens, it'll be cool. But I'm just a firm believer in the fact that Sam Darnold was drafted to a place where nobody could have possibly succeeded. Show me a Jets quarterback who's been drafted there who actually has succeeded under that regime that's been there for a while. They obviously replaced Adam Gase after Darnold was gone, and Gase really hasn't ever been given a head coaching or any type of offensive roles anywhere else of that nature.
He deserves it.
But no, he then went on to Carolina where he was competing with Baker Mayfield for a role, 2 guys who were drafted very high in the draft and didn't work out in their original spots. And I don't know if people remember, but Darnold started off that season very, very well his first season in Carolina. He ended up getting hurt. I believe it was concussion, and they ended up going to Baker Mayfield. Darnold didn't play as well when he came back. But that was another situation where you saw Carolina last year, and Bryce Young's the number 1 pick and couldn't succeed at all. It was no better in Carolina a couple years ago outside of having one weapon who we know and love, DJ Moore. And last year, Sam Darnold was the backup to Brock Purdy all year. And I'm firmly of the belief that if you had given Brock Purdy, or not Brock Purdy, if Brock Purdy had something that happened to him, he had gotten hurt last year and Sam Darnold was forced to step in for an extended period of time, I think Sam Darnold's got all the talent in the world still. There's a reason why he was drafted so highly to the Jets out of USC. And I think this year in a Kevin O'Connell offense with Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson as his receiving tandem, Aaron Jones out of the backfield, who's known as a great receiving back, and TJ Hawkinson when he comes back from his ACL injury. I just think the sky's the limit for Darnold, and I think a lot of people are going to be surprised because he's someone that I think a lot of people have just written off in his career. And I think that this is by far the best situation he's been in. So he's got a chance.
I can agree with that. I am one of the people that, sadly have kind of written off Sam Darnold, but it's just because of his situations, And I agree with Jack here when he says that this is definitely the best situation for him to go into. It's just, if you haven't produced yet in your career, can you produce on your third team? That's my question. But I hope that I get proved wrong. I mean, I hope that Sam Darnold gets a fair shot to start, for a good amount of time. I mean, I would assume with a torn meniscus, yeah, JJ McCarthy is going to.
I mean, they said they were not going to announce a timetable until they went in and opened his knee up and saw what the extent of the damage was because they weren't fully able to tell from the MRI. But it could be anything as short as like 4 to 6 weeks to a lot longer. So it'll all depend on the rate of tear.
Darnold was already slotted to be the week 1 starter. So that.
Yes, he was.
If it's just a 4 to 6 week thing, it's not really going to cut into McCarthy's playing time. But if it's a longer injury than that, I mean, he could be out a year. So, I mean, I hope that, it goes well in terms of the surgery. And I never wish any injury on anyone except Aaron Rodgers. I will admit that. I do not like Aaron Rodgers. We're Bears fans, so even though he's not a Packer fan anymore, we just still don't like him. So, I mean, I don't have anything else to say. That was pretty much our planned podcast / radio for you guys today. We will be back on Friday afternoon to preview the Bears versus Bengals game for you. That's on Saturday. I don't know if starters will play because they do have a joint practice with the Bengals the next couple days, and usually when that happens, they don't play as much.
They use those joint practices more.
I'm okay with that. I want Caleb to go into the week 1 healthy. So, what happens, and we will still have, a podcast to talk about stuff. It just might not be as interesting because we'll have to break the news that Caleb might be sitting. But, it's football is back, and that's all we care about. So this is Grant Winsauer.
Yeah,
this is Grant Winsauer, and signing off.
This is Jack Rodi.
The BearClaw Cast for the first episode of the week. We will see you guys later in the week. Have a good one.